Okay, so you know how we always say, send us the stuff that's really making you think? Well, this time you guys really delivered with
Yeah,
this paper by Julianne C. Turner.
absolutely.
Measuring Self-Regulation, a Focus on Activity
From 2006.
from 2006, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, right off the bat, there's this question that just kind of like grabs you,
Yeah.
which is instead of asking what someone thinks about how they learn, what happens when we look at what they do?
Yes.
How does that change our understanding of learning?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Yeah, and Turner's paper is kind of a response to some researchers, Ainley and Patrick, who, as Turner puts it, were trying to identify self-regulation in action.
Mm-hmm.
And they were using Pinterest's 4 phases of self-regulation:
Right.
activation, monitoring, control, and reflection.
Hmm.
And they were trying to really see those play out like on a very granular level as someone's working on a task.
Yeah, really breaking it down, zooming in.
Exactly.
That's exactly what they were doing.
Yeah, so they're getting really in there into the nitty-gritty of like the micro processes of this. But Turner's saying, okay, that's great, but maybe we also need to like zoom back out a little bit
Yeah.
and look at the bigger picture and maybe even expand what we even think of as self-regulation.
Yeah.
Like, how do we define that, and how does that change if we start thinking about it as something that's not just internal, it's happening, over time, it's connected to all these different contexts. So like where does she even begin to expand the definition? Because it's not like these earlier models completely ignored action.
Right. It's not like, Zimmerman and Chunk or Bocarts and Corno,
Right.
back in 2001, 2005. It's not like they were just like, it's all in your head.
Right.
It's not like they were talking about actions and behaviors too, like what strategies you use. Do you use self-talk to kind of keep yourself going? How do you collaborate to build knowledge with other people? So it's not that they weren't looking at those things at all.
Right. Okay, so the groundwork was there, but Turner's saying we need to take it further in how we even think about the emphasis of that.
Exactly. She's really arguing for a shift in perspective.
Okay.
It's less about the individual being like the center of everything and more about the activity being that unit of analysis.
The activity being the unit of analysis.
Yeah.
Okay, now I got to wrap my head around this for a second. So like if we're talking about you learning something new, instead of just focusing on like how internally motivated you are, we're looking at what you're doing as you're trying to learn it.
Yes.
Okay.
So are you engaging with the task? Are you actually pursuing the goal that you maybe even set for yourself within that situation?
Yeah.
How are you interacting with other people? How does your behavior change over time as you're working on that activity? So it's less are you motivated and more what are you actually doing when you encounter this challenge?
Right. It's that like visible behavior. It's like we're moving from the internal to the external and seeing how those connect. That's a huge shift in how we approach this. And Turner argues that this activity-focused view can help answer questions that maybe like a simple self-report on your thoughts and beliefs might miss.
Totally. It can answer things like when you encounter an obstacle, when do you persist and why? How do you protect your intentions to learn? How do you even form those learning goals in the first place? And, do you stay with them? Do you change them? What strategies are you using and where do those even come from?
These are all questions that, like, if I just ask you to fill out a survey on your beliefs about math, I might not get the full picture.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah. And Turner, she actually brings up this research that she did with Helen Patrick,
Okay.
where they were following students moving from elementary into middle school math.
Okay.
And they found that even though the students' goals, their self-reported goals about math, didn't really change that much, their participation in discussions in the classroom changed a lot from one year to the next.
Interesting. So what they said they wanted and what they were actually doing weren't always lining up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which makes you think, maybe we need to be a little careful how much weight we put on just asking people.
Right. Exactly. Okay, so that's the first big shift, moving from the internal to the external. The second one is about how we view self-regulation as a dynamic process.
Yeah.
And I know that, like, Ainley and Patrick, they were looking at self-regulation at different points in time, right?
Right. They were looking at it in these different moments using Pinterest's model to see how these different things connected at those points in time.
Okay.
But Turner's argument is that it's not just about these separate points in time.
Right.
It's more like a movie that's constantly running. It's
Yeah.
this continuous process
Yeah.
where things are changing and influencing each other.
Yeah.
She even uses the analogy of like when you're writing,
Right. You're not just checking if you understand at the beginning and end.
right? It's not like, did I get it? Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
You're monitoring as you go, maybe even like after each sentence you write.
It's constantly unfolding.
Yeah, yeah. And it's probably a lot messier than we think, too.
Right.
It's not this nice, neat, linear process.
Okay.
And again, going back to that idea of focusing on the activity,
Yeah.
that really helps us see how dynamic it actually is. Now, how engaged are you in different parts of the activity?
Yeah.
Or even how does it change across different kinds of activities? Turner brings up Rogoff's work here, and she's saying we need to look for these patterns. Like, is your participation varying, or is it staying really consistent across all these different learning situations?
So by watching you actually engage with different tasks, we can get a much better sense of your like self-regulatory habits,
Right.
how you approach things.
Exactly.
Yeah, and how you adapt.
And it also lets us see how all these different things in the learning environment are connected.
Okay.
The task, how the teacher interacts with you,
Yeah.
what your peers are doing, how do all those connect to your self-regulation in real time?
Yeah, it's all happening at once. It's not like you plan your trip and then just follow the plan.
Exactly. It's like
Yeah.
you're constantly checking the map,
Right.
changing your route based on the traffic.
Yeah, it's that ongoing adjustment.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And Turner, she talks about the study by Jarvelet where students were modeling a washing machine on a computer.
Oh, yeah. That's such a great example.
Yeah.
So they're using these video recordings, and they're able to capture all this stuff at the same time. What the students are doing on their screens, how they're talking to each other, how they're interacting with the teacher, the whole classroom context. So you can see, like, when they encounter problems, what strategies they're using, how motivated they are, any emotions that are coming up. It's all unfolding in real time.
It sounds like such a richer way to get information than just the simple self-report.
Oh, totally.
Okay, so we've got expanding the definition, looking at the actions. We've got this idea of it being a dynamic process. And then the third key point Turner makes is about the context. Like, why is understanding the context so crucial for this?
Well, Turner says those first 2 points lead us right to this one.
Okay,
Self-regulation isn't happening in a vacuum.
right.
It's always embedded in the context. So to really understand it, we have to consider the context. And she really likes this framework by Rogoff, these 3 planes of analysis.
The personal, interpersonal, and community, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So, can you break those down?
Yeah, so the personal plane is how you, the individual learner, change through participating in the activity. Like your interpretations of what's happened, your understanding, your strategies. This is that really detailed level that Ainley and Patrick were looking at.
Like it's your internal journey through that activity.
Yeah.
Then there's the interpersonal plane, which is about the interactions between people, the tasks, the tools. This is where we see how you're making choices, what strategies you're selecting, even how you're forming preferences. Like maybe you learn a new way of doing something because the teacher gives you feedback, or you see how your classmate does it, or even from a book you really admire. And Turner points out that even when you're learning by yourself, your actions are probably based on past interactions you've had.
Right, right. It's not like we just pull knowledge and skills out of thin air.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, and then there's the community plane, which is that broader social, historical, cultural setting. Like, think about the specific culture of a classroom.
Right.
What are those unspoken rules? What are the expectations? And that's sitting within the larger context of the school and the community.
Right.
Turner talks about this research by Cobb, Yackel, and Wood in a second-grade math classroom.
Right.
And they show how, the teachers and students together, they created these norms about explaining your reasoning and discussing things. And that was really different from classrooms where it was all about speed and accuracy.
Wow.
And those norms at that community level really influence how students approach their learning and how they regulate their behavior.
Even in activities that aren't math, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like even writing.
That's so interesting. Now, to try and think about all 3 of those at the same time, it sounds overwhelming.
I know, right? It can seem like a lot. And Rogoff actually suggests that maybe researchers should just focus on one plane at a time, depending on their question, and keep the others in the background.
Okay.
But Turner's saying if you completely ignore any part of the context, you're going to end up with a really incomplete picture.
Yeah.
It's like a puzzle with missing pieces.
Right.
She even quotes Damon, who said that focusing only on the individual is just as bad as focusing only on the environment. You really need to see how they work together.
That makes sense. And it sounds like even Ainley and Patrick were starting to move towards this more holistic view in some of their later work.
Right, where they were having the students record their planning and their strategies.
Right.
And Turner sees that as a really positive step towards a more contextualized understanding.
Hmm.
And it's clear that all of Turner's ideas come from this deep belief in the importance of social context,
Yeah.
in shaping our motivation and our ability to regulate our own learning. And she's really trying to offer these insights to help us understand and create better learning experiences.
So, bringing it all together, Turner's saying we need to think about self regulation in these three ways. First, don't just look inside, look at what people are actually doing.
Mhm.
Second, it's not a static thing, it's dynamic, it's always changing.
Right.
And third, it's all about the context,
Yes.
from our own personal interpretations to our interactions and the bigger community.
Exactly. If we can do all that, then we can really move past this, limited way of thinking about self-regulation and really have this much richer, more useful understanding of how we learn.
This has been so thought-provoking, and I think it really highlights how something that we often talk about in pretty simple terms like self-regulation is actually incredibly complex.
Right.
So, listener, I want you to think about a time when you were trying to learn something new.
Mm-hmm.
And don't just think about your thoughts and feelings, think about what you were actually doing. How were your actions, like the ups and downs of your engagement and the whole environment around you, the people, the resources, even just like the general expectations that you felt? How did all of that affect your ability to learn and to manage your own progress? What does focusing on those more external aspects, what does that show you that maybe just thinking about your internal motivation wouldn't have?
It's a really interesting question to consider.
It is.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Absolutely.